Love it or hate it, there's a rhetorical genre for it.
Love it or hate what? Is generalized confusion your new 30-second retention strategy?
Well, I just mean that whatever you love or whatever you hate, the Progymnasmata has you covered.
Never mind. Confusion is probably a better strategy then.
Well, excuse my pessimistic friend. Today, we're getting 2 ancient rhetorical exercises for the price of 1, and 2 of the most literary exercises, if I do say so myself, Encomion and invective.
Well, nobody else is going to say it, so it might as well be you.
Well, it's not just me, actually. Apthonius the Sophist describes them like this. Encomion, or encomium as it's more commonly known, is language expressive of inherent excellences, and invective is language expressive of inherent evils. So in other words, ancient students of rhetoric spent time learning how to write speeches that praised excellence and condemned evil. Of course, they're skills that have value when you're trying to propose legislation in the assembly and make your proposal look good, or to win a case in a court of law and make your opponent look bad. But they also have independent value. I mean, sometimes you want to give a speech about how awesome your friend is at their wedding, or you want to write an article about how dangerous social media algorithms are. In those cases, your praise or blame aren't strategies in service of some larger goal, they are the goal. So naturally, students trained in expressing the excellent and the evil as they prepared for legal careers and for ceremonial occasions. And because encomium and invective work in exactly the same way, just with opposite motivating emotions, I thought we'd cover them both and show you first how they work, and then, as we've been doing throughout this series, talk about ways you could find inspiration for your own writing with these ancient exercises. Now, importantly, it's common to think of encomium and invective being directed at people. The ancient sophist Gorgias wrote a famous encomium of Helen of Troy, showing off his rhetorical prowess by rehabilitating the image of a woman who was traditionally blamed for the Trojan War. And in turn, the ancient teacher Isocrates famously wrote a speech repudiating the sophists, an example of invective. But as Apthonius points out, you can celebrate or condemn persons and things, both occasions and places, dumb animals and plants as well. So it wouldn't be strange to see a speech praising poplars or excoriating the tiny, miserable town you first moved to after graduation. And anciently, these speeches followed a set outline. So, for example, you could compose an encomium by introducing the subject of your speech, and then, again per Apthonius, you will state the person's origin, which you will divide into nation, homeland, ancestors, and parents. Then upbringing, which you will divide into habits and acquired skill and principles of conduct. Then you will compose the greatest heading of the encomion, deeds, which you will divide into those of mind and body and fortune. Mind as courage or prudence, body as beauty or swiftness or strength, and fortune as power and wealth and friends. After these, a comparison attributing superiority to what is being celebrated by contrast, then an epilogue rather fitting a prayer. And of course, you would do the same with invective, you'd just probably be pointing out different things.
Like this. The Grand High Counselor of the High Grand Council of Alchemists is an execrable wretch worthy of all cosmic contempt. Born in the orbit of a prestigious star, the Grand Counselor was raised by who else but the then Grand High Counselor, where he learned to prostrate himself to authority, insulate himself with tradition, and strut about like his father's accomplishments made him special. He distinguished himself throughout his illustrious career by earning an appointment to the High Grand Council in the final year of his father's tenure as Grand High Counselor, and managing to attend most council meetings. He was and is expert in convening deliberative committees, deferring judgments until such time as further fact-finding can be done, and rigidly defending the least ambitious program of alchemical inquiry. He surrounded himself with the elitist sycophants, and executed a marvelous agenda of languid mediocrity, distinguishing himself primarily in his decisive prosecution of a fellow council member, which resulted in the subsequent exile of the accused. Truly, any thoughtful student of history would have to acknowledge that the Grand High Counselor is a singular figure in the chronicles of alchemy, an illustrious pillar in the annals of unearned confidence, rampant nepotism, and steady play in safeness.
Yeah, I guess kind of like that. It's worth pointing out, too, that those exercises also specifically invite a more elevated style. As Nicolaus the Sophist observed, they say in Encomion it is necessary regularly to use expression that is polished and rather graceful and theatrical, with some solemnity. Historically, these kinds of speeches would show up at ceremonial occasions like funerals or holidays, so the audience would be coming to hear the speech not to settle a legal dispute or implement policy, but to enjoy the language and speech-making as a form of leisure. In those conditions, a more elaborate and entertaining style was an appropriate fit. But of course, we're not doing a lot of formal encomia these days. They do show up in other ways, though. I mean, for example, what is a review for a movie or restaurant but an exercise in encomium or invective? Sure, you could just write a post that says this movie was total trash and I hated it, but taking a cue from ancient invective and not just stating your opinion, but also methodically highlighting the film's evils, its sloppy writing, flat visuals, and boring soundtrack, for example, make your review not just a shallow hit piece, but the kind of critical review that people might actually listen to. And that's the real value of looking back at old exercises like these. Because no, you don't need an ancient textbook to tell you how to say nice things about stuff you like, but the ancient curriculum sets itself apart for being so methodical. You aren't just tasked with saying why you thought such and such is good. You're tasked with accounting for their origins, their abilities, their accomplishments, and then building out a persuasive account from that for why they were worthy of admiration and praise. So imagine, for example, what you might be able to do if instead of just saying, well, the hero of my novel is a good person, you actually used the method of the encomium to draw up a thorough and convincing list of all the good things about that hero. Where did they come from? What habits and skills do they have? What have they achieved? And so on. That's, of course, not to say that you have to write an encomium into your novel, but you could use what you learned while writing that encomium for your hero to help you to make a more fleshed out hero with a more fully heroic profile. Or do what poets are always doing when they write odes and use the method of the encomium to help you to identify aspects of praise for your childhood hamster, or the daffodils in your front yard, or the fried pickles at your favorite restaurant. Now, it might be tempting to look at this and say that it's just extra steps, but the value of a method may not be that it streamlines your process, but that it points you in unexpected directions. If all you want to do is write about how bad the new pizza is at the local pizzeria, well, then you can just list all the things you hate about it. But writing a classical invective also requires you to investigate the origins of the person or thing you're writing about. So using this method could lead you to learn that you not only hate that pizza because it tastes bad and looks ugly, but it's also made from lower quality ingredients. And that's something you might not have thought consciously about if you were just ranting on your own. Or to go back to the hero of your hypothetical novel, you might intuitively spend a lot of time already developing your character's individual virtues and praiseworthy attributes. But a classical encomium also invites you to examine that character's personal relationships. So now, thanks to the method, you'll have a chance to think about the influence of that character's friends and family. And it might even lead you to introducing new important characters to your story. The idea, in other words, is that of course you can write whatever you want, however you want. But adopting a method like this can disrupt your default patterns and lead you to new insights or creative opportunities that you just may not have come to naturally. So consider extending the boundaries of your working skill set by trying out something new, even if it means you initially feel like you're writing a piece in a more complicated way. Because it may just be the case that those constraints push you to grow in new and unexpected ways.
I don't know if you could tell, but my first speech wasn't invective. I do have an encomium, though, that I'd like to share.
Wow, I mean, yeah, you are kind of interrupting, but it's always great to see you actually contribute to the show, so why not? Go ahead.
Okay, great. Here's an encomium of that pebble in your shoe. Nobody really knows the origins of that pebble in your shoe. It might have rested on the brackish floor of an ancient sea, or spattered from the mouth of a noble volcano. Or perhaps it came from humbler circumstances, breaking off of a magnificent canyon and passing through a local gravel supplier before bouncing off the sidewalk and flipping into the back of your sneaker. Wherever it came from, though, we can all admire the excellence and discipline of the shoe pebble. Indeed, the shoe pebble is an awe-inspiring paragon of causing discomfort without breaking the skin, a champion of maximizing misery without doing harm. It is sharp without cutting, harsh without debilitating, and large enough to send an electric shock up your heel while staying small enough to hide between your toes. Imagine being so good at irritating someone that you ruin their day, but also being just restrained enough that you can convince them to maybe take a few more steps before trying to remove you. It's a beautiful thing, and shoe pebbles stand tall among mild colds, government paperwork, and your neighbor's puppy as an intensely moderate inconvenience. So, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, it is an encomium, but shoe pebbles?
Yeah, they're pretty great. Actually, they might be one of my heroes.
Well, that's neat. So, I guess that's it?
Don't look at me, it's your show. I'm sorry, I can't say that with a straight face. Yeah, go ahead and call it quits for today if you want.
Gee, thanks. Well, hey, thanks for watching. It's always a blast. Go have some fun planting seeds in encomium and invective, and then seeing what kinds of creative projects bloom, and we'll see you next time.